In this lecture, you will learn design an example API with Swagger. This is an example API which I'm going to show you how to design using Swagger editor. List all users. So the API endpoint URI is /users, and the request method is get, and the response status code for successful operation 200 OK if it contains data, and this is a sample response body, a JSON document that represents a list of users. You can see each user has 3 fields: ID, email, and name. And another response status code is 204, no content if no data available. So head over to Swagger homepage, swagger.io here, and click Tools, Swagger Editor. And we use the Swagger Editor online tool. Click the button Try Swagger Editor here. And by default, you see it loads a sample Pet Store API. Now we need to design our own API from the beginning. So click File, Clear Editor. Okay, you see now the editor is empty. And while designing APIs, you can refer to OpenAPI documentation. Click About, View Docs. Okay, and you can see the OpenAPI right here. Basic structure. So you can learn the basic structure of an OpenAPI document. The first section is the general information, metadata about the API document. You see info, OpenAPI version, server URLs. Okay, and back to the editor here. And in this editor, you can see the menu insert that allows us to add several items here. For example, for adding general information, we can click the menu item, Add Info. Okay, and the title is Example API Users. Description: APIs about users management, version 1.0.0, and you can specify URL for terms of service. This is just an example. company.com/terms, and you can also specify a license. By default, it selects Apache license. Contact information, URL mycompany.com/contact, email contact@company.com. This is just example information. Company contact, and click Add Info. Okay, and somehow it add all the API definitions of the Pet Store API. So you delete from the line external docs here to the end of the document. Delete. Okay, now we have only the general information of the API document. Don't worry if you see it reports errors here. Okay, and then the next section we define the servers, as you can see here. So while designing the APIs, you can refer to this document to learn how to write the document using OpenAPI specification. Yeah, we need to add a server information. So come back to the editor You click insert menu and you can see the menu item add servers here. URL. This is an example API, and the URL is, for example, localhost port number 8080. Because later I will generate the code running on a local server, so I specify the URL of the server is local and a description local server development. Okay, click add server and you can see a server appears in the drop down list here. You can add more if you want. Okay, and the next item is we add tags, add tag decoration here. You can learn more about the tag here. Okay, let me search for tag. Here you can see the purpose of using tags is to group operation with tags. Okay, so I click the menu item add tags to, sorry, not this one. Click insert add tag decorations. Name of the tag user, description, everything about user. Okay, click button add tag decorations here, and you can see in the editor it shows tags here. You can add more tags if you want. Okay, and the next item is path item. You can learn more about paths and operations here. You see in this document. So click the menu add path item. Path is /users and summary is operations about users. Click add path. Okay, you see paths here, and the first one is /users, and you can see it displays a tag user here. That means the operations can be grouped by tag. And next we add an operation. So click the menu item add operation here. Select the path users /users. Select HTTP method or operation get summary. Get users information and description. Verbose description returns a list of users, and operation ID is the handler method in REST API controller, which will be generated if you use the Swagger CodeGen to generate the code for server stuff. So I enter the operation ID here is list users. You see, and click add operation. Okay, you can see in the editor here we have get summary description operation ID and a default response, and on the right side you can see it shows the operation get /users. Very nice. Okay, and then we can insert an example response. So click the menu item add example response here. Select path /users. Select operation get and select and add a response status to OO. Media type is application /JSON. and example name is a list of users. Example is a value. We can copy. Copy the JSON document here. Paste here. Okay. You see an example, and click Add Example Response, and you can see now it shows the JSON code example in the editor and also example in the Swagger UI on the right here. Very nice, right? Media type example, a list of users. You can add more examples if you want. Okay, and the next response status. Yeah, we can modify. To for no content. We got an error here. It should have the required property description. We must provide description for the status to our description. Successful operation, and another status code is 204. No content available. So as you can see, the Swagger editor is not perfect. It supports editing and designing the APIs easily, but sometimes we need to write the API definition manually. Alright, now you can see on the right side we have default. We need to add this operation, add tag to this operation, add tag to operation. Users tag is operation, add tag user. Okay, now you can see now the operation get/user is grouped inside the tag user, everything about user. You see, returns a list of users, no parameters, and sample responses for the HTTP status code 200 example JSON, and status code 204, no content available. So that's the design for an example API get/users. Okay, you can learn more by referring to this document. You can understand adding examples here. And sorry, we also need to define a schema about user information in the components section. You can learn more about components section definition here. You can see components serve as a container for various reusable definitions such as schemas or data models. Alright, so here for the schema we need to write the code manually here. Alright, so we type components here and schemas, and we want to define the data model for user object. And you can see an example here. Schemas, user, type object properties. Okay, back to the editor. User, type, object and properties. Property, we have ID type integer. You can specify the format is integer 64. Let's see the definition here. Type format for the ID field and name and email. Name, the field name has the type string and the field email has type string. You can type example here. Example of ID, for example 99, and example of name, example John Doe, and example of email john.doe@gmail.com. Okay, and on the Swagger UI on the right side, you can see it displays the user schema. Here you see it has 3 fields: ID, name, and email. You can see the data type example. So very convenient, readable, right? So that's I have done designing our first example API using Swagger Editor and explore the API using Swagger UI. And when done, you can save the file. Click menu File, Save as YAML, and I save the file here. Select new folder. Example API Swagger. Correct. Okay, save. Okay, and you can see it stores the API definitions in a YAML file. Open api.yml. You can open. I show it in my folder. Okay, here, and I can open with Sublime Text, for example, and you can see its code here. You can see metadata, general information, title, description, server, tag, and path/user, summary, get, responses 200, 204, and schema about user object. Okay. So, as you have seen, I designed an example API using Swagger Editor, Swagger UI. The Swagger Editor is easy to use. It helps writing open API file easily, such as it supports adding general information, adding servers, adding path item, adding operation, and so on. But it is lack of UI support for defining schemas. That means we must write the schema definition manually. And the Swagger UI is perfect in visualizing APIs. It's easy to use as it helps understand the API design quickly. And it also reflects the changes in the Swagger Editor instantly. And the Open API, as you have seen, it is easy to learn with specifications well defined, and the format is readable. To learn more, I recommend you to check the Open API guide about basic structure at this URL, and check out the Swagger Editor documentation at this URL. And you can use the Swagger Editor online tool at this URL.